right, we're back for one more talk with Bob Doherty here, a local counselor in Burlington. He's going to talk to us a little bit about communication and how communication is so important within the home. So, Bob, so many arguments and fights start out of just miscommunications, and text messaging and all these other forms of communication, they don't minimize those miscommunications for sure. So how do you recommend families handle all of these different communication methods, and particularly with important conversations and those conversations that need to be had?
Well, yeah, we live in an age where, I sat in a restaurant and there were 4 young people sitting at this table, and each one of them was on their phone. There was no conversation going on.
Yeah, probably
Whether they were talking to each other, I don't know.
probably Snapchatting each other, right?
Yeah, right. Okay. But the thing that presents a problem for me with that is that you can't tell a tone of voice, you can't tell inflections, you can't see the person's face, so that it's really a bad form of communication. I'm talking about texting. A bad form of communication for intimate kinds of things. When I say intimate, I'm not talking about sexual. I'm talking about the ability to let you know what's inside of me, to relate to other people.
Yeah.
Not good. So I have people all the time say, well, would you do Skype? I'm in another state. Would you counsel me? No, I'm not going to do that. Well, would you do telephone counseling? No, I don't do that. Because you just miss so much.
Right.
God has made us a full person. And if we really want to communicate the intimacies of life, we want to be involved with the whole person.
Yeah, exactly. Technology allows us so many opportunities for a quick message here and there to stay in touch throughout the day when you can't have that full-time conversation going on. But you're absolutely right. The face-to-face communication, seeing each other, our different body languages, and the vocal tones and inflection is so important, especially for those important conversations, right?
Yeah, right.
So what are some of those basic communication skills that we can all be better at? Because again, being in a culture of a lot of texting and a lot of alternative forms of communication, I think sometimes our communication skills tend to lack on that. So what are some techniques we can all get better at?
Well, one of the things that I have found, and I do with each one of my clients in the counseling office, is a short personality quiz. And so I recommend this book, Your Personality Tree, by Florence Littauer. And she basically takes people's a quick 5-minute test and comes up with 4 different types of personalities. Now, there are a lot of personality quizzes. I like this one because I find it quick, simple, and helpful.
Yeah.
And we get into conflicts often with just personality differences. So I'm trying to talk in gray, and you're hearing me in black and white, and it just frustrates you, okay? A lot of husbands and wives go through that. One of them will be a particular personality, and they think, I just want to have a yes or no answer. And they look at their partner, who they've been married to for 15 years, who has never given them a black and white, yes or no. It's always a, well, I don't know. And that can drive people crazy, but if you understand its personality and you can work with them, it merely makes a big difference. So that's a good foundation.
Yeah, absolutely. I know we've talked before about this, but Gary Chapman's 5 Love Languages as well. There's so many different personality assessments, and just understanding your spouse. I know that's been really helpful in my relationship with Savannah when we learned our love languages and learned our personality types. And she became less frustrated with how I tend to communicate.
It's good. It's good. Yeah.
Right.
The love languages are really important, I think, and because Gary Chapman's next book, if you don't learn the love languages, his next book is Desperate Marriages.
Yeah.
So
that tells you about all you need to know.
That's
then.
it.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. So communication with children, that obviously looks a lot different than communication between 2 adults, especially throughout the lifetime of a child. And when they're younger, and like my 4-year-old right now, communicating with him is interesting, to say the least. He will generally take kind of the conversation to poop or other issues like that, which makes things very interesting. So how can parents of young children begin building these open lines of communication that will last into those adolescent, teenage years?
Yeah. Well, I think one of the ways that's helpful is reading.
Yeah.
They've shown studies that a child who learns to read has all kinds of opportunities open up for him. If a child doesn't learn to read, it is a stop for their growth and for their maturity. Another thing is, as we talked about in one of the other sessions, is to listen to the children. When a child understands that he has your attention, that makes him feel important. And when he feels important, then he's willing to talk with you and let things go, know what's going on. When it comes to adult communication, there are some principles I keep learning. Okay, one of them is that when we get into discussions or arguments, and so one person will say da 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 da, and the other one will say, yeah, but, and then that just wipes out whatever he said. And I read a linguist, and what he suggested was this: replace the word but with and. Now it's hard to do because we're so used to saying but. La da 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 da. Yes, and. So we're building off of that previous thing. And that's one thing. Another word that I find has been very troubling is the word why. I have couples, individuals come in over the years, and I'll listen to the issues at that first session, and I'll be thinking, well, this is going to be relatively simple, you know, maybe 4 or 5 sessions we can work this out. And it doesn't. It goes on and on and on. On the other hand, I have couples or individuals come in, and I'm thinking, oh man, this is going to be a year's worth of work. And they get it settled quickly. And one of the differences is this: people who need to know why ties them to the past. Sometimes we may never know why. Why did he commit adultery? Why did she change those jobs? So on and so forth. And although there are legitimate reasons to understand that, when you can't get past that, it just never, you never move ahead. It ties you to the past.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned in there also conflict, and I'm kind of going off script here on you, so I'm sure I know. Great. Conflict, fighting, every couple does. Every couple argues and fights and has these conflicts.
We have marital adjustments.
Yes, positive spin. So when those marital adjustments come up, what are some suggestions that you can give to couples to seek resolution and to work through those and navigate those well?
Well, that's a good question, because it's true. Every couple has conflict. In counseling, I don't look for the absence of conflict. What I look for is, where does the conflict push you? Does it draw you further apart from each other? Does it make you go to God? Working it through, then can it bring you back together? And so one of the things that happens quite frequently, all too frequently in marriages, is one person will do the talking, the other one will start saying, okay, well, I've gone as far as I can go. I need to take a break, and they try and leave. And this person follows them and no, you can't leave. They close the bedroom door. Eventually this leads to physical stuff, and eventually the police are involved, and and families fall into that trap. So one of the things that is a real helpful tool is what we call a timeout. Okay, now a timeout doesn't mean I'm going to escape and never come back and talk about this. It just means, and it simply says, I'm beginning to feel angry. I need to take a timeout. And I'm talking about me. I'm not talking about you. You're making me angry. No. I'm beginning to feel angry. I need to take a timeout. That means I'm going to take 5-10 minutes, a half hour, an hour. I'm going to take a break from the conversation, but I'm willing to come back so we can de-escalate and start trying to get in. Another thing that is helpful is to take the focus off of the person. Okay, if we can focus on the issue rather than the person, makes a big difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Cut down on some of the cutting language towards the other person and more focused on the issue at hand. That's really important. What about in the child-parent relationship? Obviously, there's going to be conflict there as well. What are some suggestions that you have for parents and children, young adults, adolescents, etc., teenagers, to manage conflict well and to work through it towards towards a holistic reconciliation.
Aside from beating little children mercilessly,
Right,
Oh.
right.
you wanted something different than oh, okay.
Yes, something more, yeah.
All right. Well,
Something that won't get you arrested.
oh,
Yeah,
all
yeah.
right. Okay. Well, that is an important issue because some parents have the idea that if I go to corporal punishment, if I go to spanking, then I'm going to be arrested for it automatically. It's a child beating.
Yeah.
And that's not true. A parent can discipline their children with spanking. The problem is that disciplining a child when you're angry
Yeah.
is not the way to do it because it's not teaching the child anything except anger. So if a parent can tell the kid, okay, this is going to be punished, they can step away from it, get themselves together, and then say, all right, this is worth 3 strikes or whatever, then they can work with that. Now, okay, so that's corporal punishment. And the Bible, of course, has, spare the rod, spoil the child, and so on. But again, it comes back, I think, a lot to listening. If a child knows and feels valuable in the relationship, it's a lot easier to discipline them. They are a lot more responsive to the discipline.
Yeah.
And the rule, I taught a course all day, and the main question that came out at the end of the day was, can we spoil or can we encourage our children too much? Of course not. Yeah, they need it. They need the encouragement.
Yeah, that's really valuable stuff to encourage, to invest in them in order to build that relationship for when discipline becomes necessary. All right. Well, I think you have everything. You covered everything that I was going to ask you about. So
Okay, I appreciate the $300.
Well,
Okay.
no, thank you so
I
much
appreciate
again
the
for all of your
invitation.
time,
So
Bob.
thanks a lot for having me on.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you for coming.
All right.